Please welcome to the stage Vice President for External Affairs, National Marine Sanctuary Foundation, Shannon Colbert.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Capital Ocean Week 2023. It's so wonderful to see so many of you back in person, and thank you so much to the people who are joining us virtually. I'm Shannon Colbert, Vice President for External Affairs with the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation. 10 years ago, I came to Washington, D.C. as the Foundation's Policy Fellow. I was determined to make a difference in ocean policy nationally after working in California for the state government, as well as a local nonprofit, and in Georgia in research and science. For my first week in Washington, D.C., I volunteered here at CHOW. And that was the first place that I met administration and agency leadership, members of Congress and congressional staff, conservation leaders from communities across the country, coming up with amazing solutions to how we tackle some of our nation's most pressing issues. I met industry executives and academic luminaries, all in one place. And I knew I was where I belonged. Anyone can come to CHOW and engage in dynamic discussions, listen and learn from the brightest and the most experienced leaders from all walks of life, and advocate for healthy oceans, healthy communities, and a healthy planet. CHOW has always been a place to convene the leading experts and passionate advocates in ocean science, economics, policy, communications, to raise and amplify the many leaders who have held the helm for oceans and climate work for years, and to connect our ocean and our waters with so many other nationally important issues. At the Foundation, we invite people with a stake in the health of their planet to protect their place in it. Our work extends from the ocean floor to here in Capitol Hill, and we inspire, we connect, and we educate. We inspire creating energetic ambassadors for marine and ocean conservation. We connect, working with our communities and in close partnership with NOAA for the sanctuaries and the places that they depend upon. And we educate, showing the world how sanctuaries can be models for protecting marine ecosystems around the world. Water, and in particular, our ocean, connects us all. From the rivers, streams, and estuaries to the depths of the ocean and the ice and the poles, water is the lifeblood of our planet. This complex, interconnected network sustains life on this planet. This year's focus on oceans and climate continues to build off of previous years' CHOWs centered in justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, biodiversity protection, national security. All of these issues are tied together, and we cannot address one without addressing the others. Ocean solutions are climate solutions, and our community solutions. And it will take all of us working together. CHOW is an enormous undertaking that the Foundation could not possibly do alone. We have a lot of people and organizations to thank. First, I would like to thank and express our appreciation for our signature sponsors, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, and the David and Lucille Packard Foundation. NOAA is a world leader in environmental and climate science. The agency's mission is to understand and to predict changes in our climate, weather, our oceans, and our coasts, to share that knowledge and information with others, and to conserve and manage coastal and marine ecosystems and resources. NOAA is a fantastic partner with the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation, and they have been a long-standing champion for Capital Ocean Week, so thank you for your support. And thank you to the David and Lucille Packard Foundation, whose work is committed to bold climate solutions that work in collaboration with our communities to move a just and equitable world. I want to also thank our presenting sponsors, the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, whose support for scientific discovery and environmental conservation is helping to protect healthy and resilient ocean ecosystems. Yamaha Motors and Yamaha Right Waters, who champion environmental stewardship and support habitat conservation, restoration, invasive species control, and scientific research for healthy marine ecosystems. and finless foods, whose technology and innovation is changing how the world eats and supports a thriving ocean. We are honored to have Vice Chair Mario Harley from the Piscataway Conoy tribe join us and offer a traditional welcoming. Mario.
It's a pleasure and an honor. Your goals for this upcoming week is critical to the world amongst us. I wish to officially welcome you to the Piscataway Indian homelands. My ancestors have called this area home for over 14,000 years. And because of that long-term relationship, the lands here are sacred to my people. For those who may not know, my homeland extends from what is now the Patapsco River watershed, which is now Baltimore, down the western shore of the Chesapeake Bay to the Potomac watershed all the way out to the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. All of this land is historic Piscataway lands. But we made majority of our lives here in the tidal areas of our homelands. Plenty of fresh water, milder climates, longer growing seasons. And one of the things that we do in our areas is when we welcome people, we tell them they already know a lot about Piscataway people. Some of even our language you know already. Such words as Potomac, Patuxent, Patapsco, Wicomico, Mattawoman, Anacostia. These are all Piscataway words that are currently names of the rivers in our homelands. It's a way for us to identify and maintain our history as we teach the next generation. And when we teach our next generation, we teach a wide variety of things. Most importantly, there are some principles, some foundation principles that we wish to communicate to the next generation. And one of those is that we are all connected. There are a myriad of examples in the natural world in which things of connection apply to our lives, and we need to be considerate of that. And one of the most important one is our waterways. In our homeland, we have waters coming far as away as New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and of course, Virginia, Maryland, and DC. So the activities that occur in these faraway reaches of this land affect what comes into our waters. It affects us, it affects all life in our waterways. And this has been the case for an extensive period of time. But only in the last 100, 150 years has this become an attack, an assault on the natural world. There were dams built on our rivers that blocked spawning grounds for the fish. There were berms made along the riverways to control their path that turned open waters into sewers. Pollutions were being dumped into the waters to the point in which massive fish kills within our waterways. And fortunately, America woke up in the 1960s with the environmental movement. And you started seeing change. In the early 70s, the Clean Water Act, and you started seeing change. And good things are happening, but much more need to be done. And this is where roles that you play today to understand that relationship between our backyards, our neighborhoods, the little streams, the creeks, the rivers, the bay, and the ocean. It's all connected. Our actions connect and affect those types of natural processes. The marshes, the swamps are part of that process. These are filters in our waterways. So these are things that we're challenged with to make sure that as we communicate policies and new laws and new regulations, that the natural world is considered. And that is what I'm hoping for all of you here today, to consider the natural world as you go back to your office, your companies, and communicate that interest that we are all connected. And that in that mindset, there is a lot that we can do at the local level that affects the national level. With that said, I wish you all to have a great conference. I wish a great exchange of ideas, and look forward to hearing all the speakers and the potential that we can have today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vice Chair Harley. I'm honored to introduce our 2023 keynotes. These phenomenal women closed out CHOW 2022 with their plenary session, The Path Forward. Since then, they have released the White House's first ever Ocean Climate Action Plan. They've announced several ocean-based solutions to assess, value, and conserve nature, including initiating sanctuary designations for Hudson Canyon, Pacific Remote Islands, and Lake Erie, and continuing to advance the proposed Lake Ontario and Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary designations. And just yesterday, as we kicked off Capitol Hill Ocean Week on the Hill, the administration announced $2.6 billion in investments to build climate resilience, support coastal communities, and the people on the front lines of climate change, and to restore marine resources. Let's have a round of applause for that historic announcement. And this is just the beginning. So it is now my pleasure to welcome first Brenda Mallory, Chair for the White House Council on Environmental Quality. Chair Mallory advises the President on environmental and natural marine resource issues, policies that improve, preserve, and protect public health and the environment for American communities. She's focusing on addressing environmental justice, climate change challenges that face our nation, while advancing opportunities for job growth and economic development. Chair Mallory.
Good morning, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here at the beginning of the conference this year. We had a great time last year as we ended up. Everyone was all full of the excitement of several days, and so hopefully we can help inspire more of that today. It's just such a pleasure to have a chance to be here. Happy National Ocean Month. We have on this time set aside for us to actually focus on an issue that I think many of the people in this room work on every day. And so having this opportunity to come together and focus on the issues that are important for the ocean is extremely important. And I'm just thrilled to be here as part of the opening. As was just said, I am the chair of the White House Council on Environmental Quality, and in that role, among many other environmental and natural resource issues, the ocean is really central to the work that we're doing. And over the last 2.5 years, as I have been in this role, we have gained and increased the activity that we've been doing and the work that we're doing, usually in partnership with our friends at the OSTP, because of the great Jane Lubchenco, who is there and has a great reputation and expertise in this area, so I am appreciative to have the opportunity to partner with her on many occasions. I'm here to join you in honoring the ocean's beauty and bounty and recognizing really the imperative of protecting and conserving it for generations to come. This conference, with its rich history and strong following, creates an opportunity for us to reconnect and recommit to protecting and conserving our precious ocean and to harnessing its power to shape a more sustainable planet. This year's Capitol Hill Ocean Week theme, Ocean times Climate, really forces us to confront the intersection between our desire for a thriving ocean and the reality of a warming climate and all that goes with that, from rising sea levels to unprecedented heat, to acidification, to stronger and more frequent storms. And I just, as an aside, because I know this audience is probably focused on this issue as well, but the recent Supreme Court decision in the Sackett case, which focuses on what waters of the United States, how they should be defined, is obviously going to be a critical consideration as we think about that intersection that that we know is so important for the ocean. What happens on the land is important to what happens in the water, and how we define what the waters are that are in the land area is important to that. So I know that's going to be an important part of the work that we have to do, because we have to correct for what clearly was an incorrect decision, and we have to find ways to do it that will provide protection in our community. So I just felt like we need to say that and have that front in mind. But I talk about challenges, and I think the important message that I think we in this room in particular have been focused on recently is just really how the ocean is also an effective tool in confronting these challenges, and how we take advantage of the benefits of the ocean and use the ocean in ways that are going to be powerful for both our climate crisis and for building up the strength in the ocean is obviously what I think of these meetings as being all about. So just an honor to be here, especially in a broad audience that ranges from ocean advocates to members of Congress to all those who share our administration's commitment to a healthy and prosperous planet. So just thank you. Thank you for the important work that you do in creating a clean and sustainable future for our ocean. So many of the critically important issues that we are addressing in the Biden-Harris administration are about achieving that future. In the past 2 years, and with the help of Congress, President Biden has made unprecedented investments in climate conservation, sustainability, and infrastructure of the future through the historic Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act. These laws represent a total investment of $1.25 trillion that is charting a new and better course, one that puts climate action and environmental protection at the center of the work we do and positions us to cut carbon pollution by 40% by 2030. Fundamental to this plan of action is the health of our ocean. So our waters protect us, they feed us, they stabilize the climate, and they support the economy from recreation to shipping to trade. And protecting them requires really broad cooperation across the government, followed by bold, locally led action. And that's why President Biden created his signature conservation initiative, America the Beautiful, which sets our nation's first conservation goal to protect 30% of the U.S. lands and waters by 2030. Through America the Beautiful, we are advancing policy reforms, investing in communities across the country, and employing all types of nature, from tree canopies to wetlands to seaweed, as climate solutions. Since day one, the president has demonstrated an unprecedented commitment to conservation. Just recently, he signed a presidential directive urging the Secretary of Commerce, acting through NOAA, to begin the process to establish a new national marine sanctuary in and around the Pacific remote islands, keeping more coral reefs and marine resources protected from threats and honoring the history and heritage of this very unique place. And yesterday, as we heard, NOAA announced its Inflation Reduction Act spend plan, which invests $30 million for designating new national marine sanctuaries. After so many years with no new resources, this funding will be instrumental to the president's agenda and the work that we know is necessary in this area. This year, the president also took sweeping action to protect the entire U.S. Arctic Ocean from any future oil and gas leasing and safeguard millions of acres of lands in the western Arctic, home to caribou and other wildlife central to the Alaska Native culture. Other special places our administration has protected include Alaska's Bristol Bay and Minnesota's Boundary Waters area. Focus of all of these activities is really about keeping water clean, upholding tribal trust, supporting the outdoor recreation economy, and protecting people and wildlife These are the keystones that are, we believe are important for success. And exactly what these protections were designed to do and how we think about and look towards the things of the future, the remaining time in this first term, as high priorities for the actions that we want to take. We believe these tell a story of an administration that is putting its values to work for our planet. Reference Supreme Court here. I already talked about it. I jumped ahead. I just couldn't stop. So front of mind for me. But anyway, I think the point of the mentioning the decision is just to assure all of you that we are, as an administration, committed to figuring out how we make this less bad, how we make this not something that we all will have to suffer from as it currently stands. And we'll be working harder to protect our coast and our oceans. Last year on World Ocean Day, President Biden announced that we would be developing the first United States Ocean Climate Action Plan to accelerate our whole-of-government approach to ocean-based climate action. CEQ, with our partners at the Office of Science and Technology Policy, as well as partners at the other Ocean Policy Committee members, have worked with scientists and stakeholders to create a plan that coordinates federal efforts to alleviate climate impacts on the ocean. This plan will point us towards new climate solutions within the ocean's depth, but we know that there is no path to a healthy and livable climate without the ocean. The Ocean Climate Action Plan also calls for the development of an ocean justice strategy. This strategy will reflect President Biden's belief that all people should have equitable access to the benefits that the ocean provides, like good-paying jobs, healthy and plentiful food, functioning coastal ecosystems that protect from extreme weather, clean energy from like offshore wind, and access to recreation, transportation, and trade. And I would just add here, I had an opportunity to spend a few minutes with a group of folks who came together to talk specifically about what the ocean justice strategy should look like. And as always, I left the room just energized by the thoughtfulness and the creativity in the room and the privilege of having folks like this as partners as we try to tackle new areas and new issues. And so our goal is to ensure that we center equity and justice from the beginning. So I'm excited to announce to you today and that you have an opportunity to provide your input as well on how the federal government should engage in our ocean justice through CEQ's formal request for information. I know most people don't regularly read the Federal Register, but please check it out. It does provide the information that you need to know so that we can hear from you about what this strategy should look like. Your input is crucial to developing a plan to advance equitable and just management of our waters. And so I will end by just where I started at the beginning, by thanking you for what you do and thanking you for the continued commitment that this room of people has shown in this area. I know that your participation and your input was really important in the Ocean Climate Action Plan that we developed, and I know that it will be equally important as we think about the justice strategy. And then secondly, just really call on you to really continue what you're doing. You can see what we're up against, and that really forces us as a community to work together and to figure out how we're going to overcome the hard knots along the way. I've been very focused in the last few weeks on I have these calendars, they like are mantras for me. Just like the encouraging messages about how we have to keep going, stay focused on what our ultimate goals are, and figure out new ways to get to those solutions. And I feel like that's kind of what's inspiring me. The president's Investing in America agenda really has potential and power to really help us deliver transformational change to our communities, but we really can't do it without the strong partnerships in all sectors at all levels. So we really need to work together to ensure that all of our actions are grounded in the best available science and balance the needs of our ocean stakeholders, from coastal resilience and climate-ready fisheries to offshore wind and marine mammal protection. So I'm grateful for your leadership and just want to thank you and encourage you to enjoy and have a good time at this particular conference and get ready for the fight out there. So thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Chair Mallory. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jane Lubchenco, Deputy Director for Climate and Environment for the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. She's a marine ecologist and environmental scientist with expertise in oceans, climate change, and the intersections of the environment and human well-being. She champions stronger engagement of scientists in society and finding durable solutions for environmental challenges. From 2009 to 2013, Dr. Lubchenco was the Undersecretary of Commerce for Oceans and Atmosphere and NOAA Administrator. And she was the first U.S. Science Envoy for the Ocean. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lubchenco.
Thank you, Shannon. Good morning, everyone. Happy Capitol Hill Ocean Week. What a treat to be back here at CHOW with all of you. Really, really special. What an incredible community we have. Thank you to the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation, not only for organizing us, bringing us together, but also for selecting such a timely and important theme, the Ocean Climate Nexus. As Shannon said, my name is Jane Lubchenco, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Deputy Director for Climate and Environment at the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. And it is just a wonderful treat to once again be here with you and my good colleague, CEQ Chair Brenda Mallory, to set the stage this year for these 2 days. Brenda elegantly summarized some of the Biden-Harris administration's relevant, bold actions. And as she noted, they tell the story of an administration that is putting values to work for all Americans. One of those core values is a belief in the power of science. And this is a value that the president often highlights. He says that to him, science means possibilities, possibilities. And we all know the possibilities can lead to solutions and to action. Those two words are ones that I hope we hear a lot of this whole week: solutions and action. So, what does science tell us about the ocean climate nexus, about possibilities? And how is the administration using that knowledge to create solutions and action? Here are 3 ways. First, science tells us that incremental progress is not enough. The IPCC stated emphatically that ambitious, global, and sustained action is urgently needed, which is exactly why the president has set the most ambitious climate targets the U.S. has ever seen. And that's exactly why we are so bullish about the president's Invest in America initiative that combines the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and the Inflation Reduction Act, and more. This $1.25 trillion Invest in America initiative converts the president's pledges into action. It breathes life into hope for a more sustainable, safe, just, and prosperous world. These generational investments will accelerate the clean energy economy, reduce pollution, cut energy costs, protect ecosystems, and enhance climate resilience, all while creating millions of high-quality jobs and investing in underrepresented communities. And this is exactly why we are keen to explore options for ocean climate action to contribute to these urgently needed goals. Second, science tells us that there is no path to net zero without the ocean, which is exactly why we crafted the nation's first Ocean Climate Action Plan. Building on the work of many of you in the room and online, flipping the script from the ocean as a victim to the ocean as a solution, powerful solutions to the climate crisis, and leveraging the whole of government to harness the power of the ocean to advance climate solutions, environmental justice, and ensure sustainable coastal communities and a healthy ocean economy. Notably, this Ocean Climate Action Plan brings holistic perspectives. It integrates mitigation and adaptation actions. It combines technological and nature-based solutions. And it focuses on the ocean, coasts, and Great Lakes as they connect to terrestrial land-based approaches. On behalf of my White House colleagues and all of the federal agencies who collaborated on the Ocean Climate Action Plan, I thank each of you for helping make the report possible, bringing it to fruition through your scientific work and indigenous knowledge, through your policy work and legislation, and your advocacy. We created this plan together. And even though the ink is barely dry on the document, we are keen to begin converting the words into implementation action as core components of the Invest in America initiative. Successful implementation of ocean climate actions will require integrated and coordinated action across governments and in partnership with tribal nations, indigenous peoples, communities, the private sector, and civil society, all of you. Third, science tells us that the triple crises of climate, biodiversity loss, and inequity are inextricably linked and can only be solved together, not as silos, which is exactly why we are delivering multiple parallel but connected initiatives at home and abroad. We've already noted the Ocean Justice Strategy that we are working on now, and Justice 40, two of the examples of our work on environmental justice. Here are 7 other interconnected efforts, in addition to ones that Brenda Mallory noted to you. Number 1, we are complementing our focus on science with a strong focus on indigenous knowledge, as per the formal guidance that CEQ and OSTP issued to federal agencies last year. 2, on the international ocean climate front, as of COP25, the ocean finally has a formal seat at the table through the Ocean Climate Dialogue, which the US and Chile currently co-facilitate. 3, on the international biodiversity front, we are working to achieve success as the High Seas Treaty moves to the next stages in the process. And 4, on the national biodiversity front, the US has recently established the first national nature assessment to take stock of nature in the US, including the ocean. 5, we are finally putting nature on the nation's economic balance sheet. By creating a system of natural capital accounts and associated environmental economic statistics, we recognize the strong connections between nature, including the ocean, and our economy. 6, those domestic natural capital accounts are complemented by an international effort focused on ocean accounts that's called the Global Ocean Accounts Partnership, which Dr. Spinrad, Administrator of NOAA, announced at our ocean conference the US is joining. And 7, finally, we will be integrating all of these themes together into a national strategy for a sustainable ocean economy, a significant commitment that the President made when the US joined the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy last year, in 2021, actually. A sustainable ocean economy is one in which effective protection, sustainable production, and equitable prosperity go hand in hand. We will soon issue a request for public input through another Federal Register notice for this national strategy for a sustainable ocean economy. So please be on the lookout for that and help us frame what that should look like. Now, I realize that all of that is a lot to digest, but it's all relevant. And these are not disconnected threads. They're interwoven into a tapestry that we are creating together. This work builds on efforts that many of you have pioneered, worked on, and pushed for. Thank you. For these efforts to succeed, we need your continued engagement, vigorous engagement. We share a responsibility for the solutions and action that we need for a safe, prosperous, and just world. These challenges require active, passionate engagement by all of us, and each of you has a role to play. Indeed, we need system-level changes, not incremental steps. System-level changes. We need solutions that can be replicated and scaled, and we need passion and persistence. And so today, as we launch CHOW 2023, I hope you can feel the administration's enthusiasm for ocean-based solutions, solutions for the interrelated crises of climate, biodiversity, and equity. The Biden-Harris administration comes armed with science, inspired by successes around the world, and empowered by urgency and justice. The ocean is not only our past, but our present and central to our future. The ocean is not too big to fail, nor is it too big to fix, but it is so central and so important, it's too big to ignore. And so please join us as we seize the day. Thank you very much.
Our opening plenary, titled Oceans and Climate, after this year's theme, explores the ocean-climate connection and how we can center ocean conservation in climate strategies, in climate justice, and in nationally determined contributions to address climate change. Ocean solutions are climate solutions. To kick off this important plenary, I'd like to introduce Dr. Sue Moore, Commissioner for the Marine Mammal Commission, to provide opening remarks. Dr. Moore is dedicated to saving some of our most iconic species in the world. And in many ways, these are sentinels for the impacts of climate change, including our whales, our seals, our sea lions, and so many more. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Sue Moore.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is an honor and a little daunting to take the stage after two such great plenary speakers, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm Sue Moore, as you just heard, and on behalf of the Marine Mammal Commission, I am pleased to welcome you to the opening plenary session of Capitol Hill Ocean Week. The Marine Mammal Commission is an independent, science-based oversight agency established under the Marine Mammal Protection Act in 1972 to further the conservation of marine mammals and their ecosystems. 50 years ago, the MMPA was groundbreaking legislation that, for the first time, specified the goal of conserving not just a group of organisms, but the ecosystems upon which they depend. In other words, the MMPA mandates sustainable and equitable management policies that foster healthy ocean ecosystems. Under the MMPA, the status of many endangered or threatened marine mammal populations has improved, but unfortunately others, such as the North Atlantic right whale and the Rice's whale in the Gulf of Mexico, remain in peril. Many species now face serious risks from human activities such as entanglement in fishing gear, vessel strikes, exposure to pollutants, and the masking of important acoustic cues due to increased underwater noise. These proximate threats are often exacerbated by the biggest challenge that we all face, which is the impacts of climate change. Planetary warming is already having profound impacts on marine mammal habitats worldwide, resulting in changes to their seasonal distribution and access to prey. All of this changes and affects their health. These impacts have been documented throughout U.S. waters by example, decreasing Arctic sea ice, which strands polar bears on shore, and increasing harmful algal blooms that poison sea lions and fur seals along the west coast, and manatees and dolphins offshore Florida. As we open CHOW 2023, we are excited to learn more about these pressing issues that are associated with rapid climate change. And as we listen, we should keep in mind that the health of marine mammals, humans, and our oceans are interconnected. I want to thank the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation for bringing us together this week to learn, share, and work towards a more sustainable and equitable future for our oceans. As mentioned, throughout my career, I have promoted the idea that marine mammals are ecosystem sentinels, alerting us to changes in ocean habitats that affect them and us. So with the idea of listening to marine mammals in mind, I'd like to play a clip of bowhead whales singing under the sea ice, recorded near Bering Strait offshore Alaska. If you could play the clip, please. Sing along if you know the tune. So humpback whales are not the only singers. The bowheads are right in there with them. I think, in fact, maybe a little better. Have a good chow.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moore. This opening panel will be different from some of the other ones that you'll see at CHOW. This is about vision. It's about being bold, and it's about how we all look at that in a different way. And so we've actually tried to think about how can we make space for all of those different pieces. And we've invited several bright, illustrative thinkers, doers, game changers, to tell us what they think about how we should tackle the climate crisis in our communities. So please join me in welcoming Queen Quet, Chiefess and Head of State for the Gullah Geechee Nation. Her accomplishments and impacts are endless. She's a published author, computer scientist, lecturer, mathematician, historian, columnist, preservationist, environmental justice advocate, environmentalist, and she is the founder of the premier advocacy organization for the continuation of Gullah Geechee culture, the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition, where they lead local, state, regional, national, and international stages. So again, please join me in welcoming Queen Quet.
Wait in the water, children, wait in the water. God why trouble the water. Wait in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God quite trouble the water. God quite trouble the water. God quite trouble the water. Yeah, your ancestors said the water to bring we, the water quite take we back. And quite get to the Sedacia, Jacksonville, North Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida. Panesia, and then children quite get to the quarter, Sealans, Chicra, Venetia line, Winner, Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and things like that. But then yet it and thing back you know, because we got to go in there, we add to that water. And yet the ancestors were way across yonder. Yaukipulan, Kalabian, eat the drum, draw back, Itelan, of a tea from that land. And butcher in this sea island sand. We had me going blue from this year, indigo too. Oh, children, when I get to this here shoreline, oh, I still wet in that water. But I haven't back a yonder. Yeah. So you can't get people like I can teach so like that every time you go on yonder. And yet, gotta get your fishing association, they can get me. And I can crack your teeth back. And yet, gotta get your stand up in the think tank. They can think about the way how to crack the teeth so. But then the rest of the children kind of crosses your thing called bridge. And then know how to crack your teeth so like a wee. So some of we go on cross the water. From the lower country up the hill. And yet it then. But take on how they crack your teeth so. And then maybe they can understand who we be. That we be Galagichi anointed people. On this your shoreline. Living in this your thing it called the ocean. And you see, the land that we family. The waterway that we bloodline. So you can't understand how they know understand this your thing for true. Now if you take care of Mama Earth, she take care of we. That's what she do. So I study with them all the rest of the churn. And I get you on there, going up the hill. And then I said, oh, they're not cracking teeth like a we. They talk like this up there. I see. So maybe that's why when they come down on their low country expeditions, they act like they can't hear us. But maybe they do. They just don't overstand, as we would say, because we've been under too long, so it's time to be over something now. And so, when they get there, we take them to the shoreline. We say it's not just a place to look at. It's a place to stop and breathe in, breathe out, and breathe in that power. Breathe out positivity. Breathe in ancestral legacy. Breathe out solutions to the future journey as we have an ocean community engaging action now. Yes, I found out up the hill they love acronyms. It's ocean. And so there it is that they said, well, Queen Quet, your people must know a lot about the ocean. I said, why not? It's all around our islands, right? We live in the Atlantic, so why did you wait so long to talk to us? We gather on the shorelines with the Ocean Justice Action Group. We gather on the shoreline with Black in Marine Science. We gather on the shoreline with the South Atlantic Salt Marsh Initiative team, SASME, and we march forward together, but those marshes, those estuaries flow back to the ocean. So I said, what are they talking about up this hill that had to climb so high from the low country? And they said, well, actually, they're having this thing called CHOW. I say, oh, they got name for something and things like that. So they know it for food security, because we're going to eat. And they said, well, no, actually, I said, it's an acronym. They said, right, for Capitol Hill Ocean Week. I said, well, I hope that week is going to celebrate this decade, this international decade of the ocean, and they're going to share with cultural heritage communities in ocean communities engaging action. When? Now. Only one person got that. That we have no time left. And when I looked at what they said they were going to do, I said, oh, great, it's ocean, time, climate. I'm a mathematician. So that means exponentially, we're going to gain energy and power to do what? Have the ocean community engaging action when? Now. Wow, they finally got the last word. So now, My thing was, yes, maybe we need to change this. Maybe in America, it's not like the Gullah Geechee Nation. Maybe sitting along the porch and having a little sweet tea and swinging in the chair and being with your family is not moving fast enough. So maybe we need to be more like what America loves, sports teams, engaging it that way. And immediately the Spirit said, right, cause a wave that makes them realize that the ocean consists of many drops, and each one of us consists of water, just like the ocean. Many of us don't realize you got salt in your body till you get a little salty with somebody, and then they realize that. But there in the Sea Islands, we realize we are interconnected with the water. So therefore, if it is part of our bloodline and it is our life, why would we pollute it? Why would we let it acidify? We can't let this happen to the ocean. We have to do better on land with our behavior so that what flows out into those water bodies doesn't come into our bodies, and that all of these bodies can live together. Not just have the scientists saying bio and connecting it to diversity without the diversity of cultural heritage communities being the biological organisms that flow with you in the low country and up the hill. Here, where we have what? The ocean. Can you say the word ocean, children? Ocean, community, engaging, action. When? Now. So what is it? Ocean, community, engaging, action. Now. What? Ocean, community, engaging, action. Now. Yes. That's the flow, that's the wave, that's all those little particles of water coming together, the particles that walk along the land, that hit on the sand, flowing like the ocean does to the Sea Islands, the tides striking us, the waves that hit daily, that nurture our souls and our spirits and lift us to new heights. The same place is that shoreline where, as you see on our national flag of the Gullah Geechee Nation, we be Gullah Geechee anointed people, and you see in the center a tree. We shall be a tree planted by the rivers of water. We shall not be moved. The only moving I'd love to see as I go back down to the low country from up the hill is this wave of the oceans. And what better time to do it than at CHOW? The time that we could then work together chillin', walk together chillin', wade in the water together chillin'. And this time, when God trouble the water, he'll trouble them like the great Mr. Lewis said. It'll be good trouble that we got in together, bringing together all communities on the ocean so that we enact justice, so that our children's children's children will be able to eat spiritually, physically, emotionally, as our ocean. And now, Ashe.
Take a deep breath. It's amazing. Thank you. So next, we'll hear from Colette Bichon Battle. She's a partner for visions and initiatives with Taproot Earth, a global climate justice organization working to make the world a place where all people can live, rest and thrive in the places that they love. She founded the Gulf Coast Center for Law and Policy and led development of programming focused on equitable climate disaster recovery, global mitigation, community economic development, and energy democracy. Please welcome Colette Bichon-Battle.
Good morning, bonjour. I am really honored to be with you today, and I want to offer my deep gratitude for the organizers of Capitol Hill Ocean Week. I want to offer my peace to the indigenous peoples of this land with honor from the traditional territories of the Choctaw Nation in Southeast Louisiana. I'm honored to be in your presence today. I've just come back from some beautiful trips across the Atlantic Ocean, where I was able to do a little bit of my own reconnection, both in West Africa, also in Ireland. Anyone in the audience of Irish descent? Respect. I offer my deep respect to those of us who come from the African continent, but I learned a lot also about our brothers and sisters fighting on the Irish side of things. I was in West Africa, able to take part in a reconciliation process. Climate justice activists from across the African diaspora coming back to one of the last places where we were whole as a people before many of us were enslaved, kidnapped, and pushed over into the Western Hemisphere, really away from a lot of what we knew, from a lot of who we were. And in that space, we were able to take part in ancient ceremony and really connect to what it means to have that sacrifice in those waters. I know I'm talking to an audience of people who get to view the ocean as a beautiful place to have your recreation, but for many people, the ocean holds a lot of history and a lot of things that need to be reconciled. I was able to take part in that reconciliation, and I am honored to say that the whales came, and they honored us as well. When I was in Ireland, I was able to learn about the struggles of colonization against colonization of people and land. I was able to learn about warrior women who have towers built to them overlooking the ocean. And I was able to understand the struggle and the fight for people's family and people's land against a colonizing power. I was amazed at how long the struggle has gone on, and I am here to report the struggle continues. It was an interesting learning for me to understand sacrifice in a different way. A reconciliation was made, and the basking sharks came. I have now returned home to the US, full of the energetic power of these two lands, these two powerful lands and people. And I am struck with how much I'm thinking about people who have faced eradication, people who have faced colonization, people who have faced enslavement. And I am sad to tell you that in the Gulf of Mexico, these practices continue. I am sad to report that in the United States today, the practices of old continue and people continue to be sacrificed. While many of the folks in this room are able and have been able to be really excited about some of the legislation that has passed over the last couple of years, those of us in the Gulf of Mexico have had to come to a hard truth. We are once again in the one area of the nation that continues to be a sacrifice for the whole. We are in an area that is too productive to be mitigated. We are in an area that is too hard to be fought for. We are in the one place that everyone is willing to turn their eye from and to act as though they cannot see all of the dangers that are happening. The Gulf of Mexico is being sacrificed. Our ocean water is being desalinated for the use of fossil fuel industries. You can check the coast of Texas, you can check the coast of Louisiana. What is happening now is industries are being given free rein over our water and our ocean. Our seabeds are being drilled, fracked at deep levels and high pressure. We have clearly not learned the lessons of all of the ecosystems that have been destroyed since the BP oil drilling disaster, nor are we honoring the lives that continue to be lost in this dangerous industry that threatens both our ocean and the people who depend on it. Our oceans are at a constant loss of shoreline because of the pipelines that continue to be laid. And now, the future of the Gulf is more of this, with hydrogen hubs, carbon capture, and all of these technologies that threaten the very same people who were enslaved and colonized, and the very same people who have to fight for justice every day. It is important that we understand the socioeconomic benefit of the ocean. Of course it is. But to start there and to prioritize the ocean based on her economic value is both disrespectful and incorrect. The ocean does not have value because of the economic benefit to the industries that use her. The ocean, as many indigenous cultures will tell you, has value all on her own, just because she exists. The ocean does not exist for the economic benefit of humankind. The ocean exists because she is God's creation, and we have a duty to protect her. I watch the pulling, the taking, the fracking, the drilling that continues to happen in our neck of the woods. I watch technology be used as a false solution, a hopeful future, a willingness to experiment on the place and the people that I love the most. It is hard to come to Capitol Hill Ocean Week with hope, but I will tell you the communities in the Gulf are fighting, and that is the hope that I bring today. Yes, we may use the ocean and enjoy what our mother ocean has to offer, but we may not harm her. We may not rape her. We may not continue to destroy her. She is not here for us to make another sacrifice. It is important to join the work of those who are protecting animal and marine species, yes, and my deep thank you to all of you for whom that is your primary work. It is important work. But it is also important for all of you who say you care about the ocean to join the fight, not of the impacts of climate change, but of the root causes of climate change. And that is industry, that is economy, and we are at the source of that. I'm not saying that we have to change everything, but I am saying we have to change big and important things now. We must stop all drilling in our oceans. We must stop all fracking in our oceans. We must stop these industries that are threatening the species that many of you care about and the people that many of us are fighting for. This is not an option. If we're gonna fight for the ocean, we have to fight for justice. And if we're gonna fight for ocean justice, we've gotta do it together. It is important to recognize that the fossil fuel industries are kicking up the greenhouse gases and really asserting and advancing this climate crisis that we're a part of. To focus on just warming oceans is not the right starting point. We've got to get to the root cause of this thing, and that's going to take courage. It's going to take courage because we're going to have to fight the largest corporations on the planet. It's going to take courage because we're going to have to examine whose consumption is driving the market. That's right. That's right. Let that one sink in. Because when you go around the world, the one thing that they're asking climate activists from the United States to do to help is to get your country together. Get your country to check its consumption. Get your country to push better laws. Get your country to stop bringing obstacles for folks who are trying to save themselves. That is the role we're playing. And if we're going to sit here and think that what we're doing is good because we've saved this or we've saved that, I'm telling you, friends, it is not good enough. And we are not at the point anymore where we can think the small steps that we're taking to preserve marine habitat or the ability to have recreation at an ocean front is good enough. The world is asking us to fight. And they're asking us to fight for ocean justice. And they're asking us to fight not for the value of the ocean to your individual life, but for the value of this ocean to our collective existence on this planet. This is the fight. I am honored to be here with all of you, but I am here to say this will take courage. It is time for you to find it. I'm here to say this is not just about an ocean that you can have your recreation in. This is about our life. It is time for us to stop making sacrifices of the ocean And I want to encourage each of you to make an offering. The next time you go to the ocean of your choice, bring your offering. Let it be something natural. Let it be something beautiful. But make your offering to this water. And when you make your offering, commit to this fight. Commit to stop the drilling of oil and gas in our oceans. Commit to stop the overfishing of large commercialized processes in our oceans. Commit to protect the shores. Commit to help the people. Commit to keep this thing ours, collective, not privatized, but ours. I need you to commit to make an offering to the ocean, to make an offering to the water, to re-indigenize yourself, whether you be from an African nation or an Irish one. It is time for you to find what the relationship your people have with that water is. Bring that back to front and center, and let us join together to protect what we all need the most. These oceans to be healthy, our shores to be safe, and our people to be together. Thank you.
Be bold. Dr. Peter Domenical is the 11th president and director of Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, the largest independent nonprofit devoted to understanding the global ocean through world-class science, innovative technical development. A marine geologist and paleoclimatologist, Dr. Domenical's research uses deep-sea ocean sediments as archives of how and why ocean and climates have changed in the past in order to predict how they can change in the future. Dr. Domenical.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and what a powerful set of presentations today, and what a great platform this is really to begin our conversation about the ocean and our dedication to ocean action now. Thank you, and I'm delighted to be here and honored to be here today. And also, thank you to the National Marine Sanctuaries Foundation and its staff for organizing yet another successful CHOW and for bringing us all together. I'd also like to thank the many partners that we have here today that are supporting us. This week is really about facilitating partnerships, diverse partnerships, partnerships representing many different groups. And as we've heard today, this is really the call to action that's embodied by our work here at CHOW this week. Having this diversity of stakeholders engaged in developing solutions in ocean climate challenges from the global to the local level is critical to everyone's future. And I also want to applaud Brenda and Jane for their really inspiring presentations earlier this morning to kick us off, to elevate awareness in the federal agencies and the interagency coordination, and to really driving success on this ocean climate nexus. The roadmap that's provided by the Ocean Climate Action Plan, or OCAP, whose development Scott Doney led. And thank you very much, Scott, for that effort and really this interagency. It's really the first time of all of government to come together for the ocean climate action. And this approach really can and must include participation across not only sciences and engineering, but as we've heard, this has to involve all of our people across all of our boundaries and bring us all together. The takeaways that I would like to share with you today really involve this recognition, as been mentioned by the previous speakers, of focusing on the fact that we live on an ocean planet. So solutions to the ocean, to the climate crisis, has to involve the ocean. The ocean has been a hero for us. The ocean provides our food, it provides every drop of precipitable rainfall, it sustains the planet, every other breath of oxygen we breathe, it's a climate regulator, it's a temperature modulator, it's a carbon sink, it's all of these things. And the ocean can indeed be a superhero as we look to trying to solve the climate crisis, and that's what I'd like to reflect on today. So this was one of the most sobering moments in my professional life, coming across this sentence. This was in the 2021 Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, AR6 report. And the sentence is easy enough for all of us to grasp, which is all pathways that limit warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade require carbon dioxide removal. Why this concerns me is probably evident to all of you, is that we have, this is really a fundamental and deep truth, which is that we have delayed action for so long, as mentioned so eloquently in our previous speakers. We've delayed action for so long that our inability to significantly reduce emissions have now put us in the position of having to actually remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, physically remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to meet this goal of reducing warming below the threshold of 1.5 or even 2 degrees centigrade. This is important because it reminds us of the imperative of lowering emissions over time and really accelerating that activity, but really focusing on carbon removal as a way to remove legacy carbon dioxide from past generations to stay under this limit. More important than that is that this all has to happen within the next decade because of the carbon budget is so pressing. So it's worth considering the scale of the carbon dioxide removal challenge. Now remember, this is an act of physically removing carbon from the ocean, either through terrestrial or ocean-based processes. But it's really important to just get our head around how difficult this is. So for example, some of you may be familiar with the Climeworks facility in Iceland that removes carbon dioxide through what's called direct air capture. It's a wonderful technology. We need more of this, but it's really important to be sober about the way, the magnitude at which this brings down carbon dioxide. The process involves reactions with chemical surfaces to actually capture the carbon from the atmosphere. But one way to express it, rather than talking about tons of carbon removed per year, is to think of it as carbon dioxide removal as a way-back time machine, a way to pull carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to restore us back to some time in the future to a lower CO2 environment. Well, this plant, or this facility in Iceland, takes us back a whopping 3 seconds. Now, again, I want to say that this is important that we continue this work, that we accelerate this work, but it's sobering to look at the actual number. So other nature-based processes on land, for example, include afforestation, or growing and deliberately expanding forests. So for example, the Salesforce effort to grow 100 million trees. 100 million trees actually gets us back a half an hour. So it's important for us to be very sober about this job ahead of us. We've put ourselves into a corner, and the tools that we have at our disposal are not sufficient. And now to turn to the star of the day, the ocean, where of course 71% of the planet is ocean, and the ocean is of course a vast carbon sink. Now it comes at a tremendous cost. It is the acidification of the oceans that is taking up this excess carbon dioxide. But the ocean does take up about 25% of our emissions every day and has done since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. This is what's known as a solubility pump. Carbon dioxide builds up in the atmosphere, exchanges with the ocean, and mixes into the ocean. Now, the biologic pump is another way in which the carbon gets to the deep reaches of the ocean to depths of around 4,000 meters or more. And that's where the vastness of the carbon reservoir storage is when you consider the full depth of the ocean. The ocean contains 50 times more carbon than the atmosphere, and so it's just this massive reservoir. In fact, I mean, just as a thought experiment, but you could take the entire carbon dioxide problem that is in the atmosphere now, the burden that is accumulated over generations, if one could capture that and mix it into the water column, the full water column of the ocean, it's about a 1% addition to the carbon reservoir in the ocean. So the ocean's really vast potential to mitigate climate comes in. That saves us about 3 months of carbon emissions every year. That is, it takes up about 3 months of carbon emissions every year. So when we look at this, what are ways in which the ocean, there are ocean-based climate solutions that involve the ocean? Well, a number of really timely studies have come out. One by the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine came out in 2021. And that really focuses on reviewing the 5 leading marine carbon dioxide removal technologies, such as growing kelp and sinking it at depth. Also providing research timelines and milestones, and importantly, having this be driven by an inclusive, community-driven model that really focuses on an upfront focus on the ethics of doing this, rather than just having this run through the private sector. Importantly, as I mentioned earlier, with the Ocean Climate Action Plan, on Ocean Day last year, President Biden announced the first ever whole government approach for Ocean Climate Action Plan. And in this are really three focus areas. This is to accelerate nature-based climate solutions, such as marine protected areas and coastal mangroves, and creating a carbon neutral future through offshore wind and green shipping and marine carbon dioxide removal, and enhancing community resilience, as we've heard from the speakers already, enhancing climate-ready fisheries and coastal communities. But there's a roadblock to this. And that roadblock is that we're essentially flying blind in the ocean. We do not have an observational capacity to understand how the ocean is changing now due to our activities, how ocean ecosystems are responding now, how the ocean carbon system is responding now, in part because although we have nearly 4,000 Argo floats in the ocean that are profiling the upper 2 kilometers of the water daily, those are not equipped to measure the biochemistry of the water. So they're not providing any indications of ocean health or what we call vital signs of the ocean. And so we really don't know how ocean health is changing as we conduct this massive global experiment. And so I just would like to have us think about this for a moment, because the uncertainty of these carbon flows is 400%. So our ability to detect changes in carbon, either intentionally or naturally, we don't know. As I said, we're flying blind. So to address this shortcoming, and really to serve the larger mission that has been raised by all of the speakers up to this point, to increase our eyes and awareness and respect for the ocean, we at the Woods Hole Oceanographic, but really this is a national and indeed an international initiative, are seeking to build what's called the Ocean Vital Signs Network, which is an always-on, always-connected, intelligent biogeochemical sampling of the ocean to reflect the full ocean health, not just of the surface, but to understand how the ocean is functioning at the basin scale. This is in two parts. One is to close the carbon budget, and the other is to really understand how ocean health is changing due to overfishing or its impact on coastal communities. And so science and technology have to lead this future, but really it's driven by an inclusive effort that captures policy and equity and justice and the private sector as well. We envision this to be over 1 million square kilometers, and it's basin agnostic. It's basically a concept, it's a technology that can be deployed anywhere, from a fjord to a coast to any basin, to really serve as a way to monitor ocean health and biodiversity and an ocean in transition, and also to serve as a test bed for evaluating these marine carbon dioxide removal technologies. And with this, I'd just like to close with this slide. As I stated in my opening comments, the existential challenges that we face require action at all levels. We've heard that from all of our speakers today, from local to global stages. We can't address the climate challenge without looking to the ocean, and hence all of you here today. For these potential solutions and to ensure that we protect and enhance the multitude of benefits that it provides, and the challenges we face with the perspective and the participation of all people, it's really vital that we incorporate ocean science and policy into the mainstream national and international climate policy, which is finally beginning to take hold thanks to the efforts of people in this room. And I really look forward to helping to build on this success. Really, one of the things that I find most gratifying about looking at all of you today is seeing individuals who are coming from many different perspectives, many different backgrounds, many different talents that are all committed to preserving and protecting the oceans. And I'd like to just restate, reiterate, re-emphasize Queen Quet's call to us, which is ocean community engaging action now.
Our final speaker hails from South Texas. Armand Alex is a force of nature. He's a coastal scientist on the City of Corpus Christi's Watershore and Beach Advisory Committee, vice chair to the Mayor's Environmental Task Force, and on the board of directors for Earth Echo International. He's the co-founder of the Gulf of Mexico Youth Climate Summit, where they work together to bring people together, including young professionals, students, scientists, stakeholders, and public officials to understand the critical intersectional issues facing the Gulf of Mexico. Please welcome Armand.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Well, howdy, folks. I want to take a second to take a breath. So would you all join me with taking 2 breaths now? And one more from our oceans. Now, I know our audience, and so I'm sure you all know that every second breath that we take comes straight from our oceans, and that's what we are fighting for today. So thank you so much, Shannon, for that warm introduction. I also would like to preface with not even just talking about any of the projects that I'm working on currently, but I wanted to offer for you all a little bit more about myself. I was born and raised in South Texas, Corpus Christi. The Gulf of Mexico is my backyard. It's my big ocean neighbor. And I'd like to share the story of some of my first experiences with a body of water. It's usually my father and I would take trips along our beach, along the Gulf Coast, and in doing so, we would collect seashells. And I love this story because my father passed away my senior year of high school, and he was one of the first people to really help me understand our connection to our ocean or just the fascination of it. And so in collecting those seashells, he often had a fascination with the seashells that maybe had holes in it or had some seaweed or some barnacles. He always thought that they had a really good story to tell, that they had been through some things. Whereas I, being very, very young, I loved the bright ones, the almost brand new, straight from the store looking seashells. But before he passed away, we would talk about the story, and he goes, "Do you remember when you were young and we'd often go out to the shoreline and we'd pick up seashells?" I'm like, "Of course." And he would also say, "I remember that you would go out of your way to find the seashells that I liked just so that we could stay out there on the shoreline longer." And I think that kind of empathy is something that we need to bring to the table and have with us every day. So I've got some remarks I'd like to say here, and then I've got a few slides that I'd like to go through. But again, Shannon, thank you for that warm introduction. And it's an extreme pleasure to be here with you all in person. My first experience participating in CHOW was just about 2 years ago, and that was a virtual one. And growing up and working on environmental issues in a hyper-partisan state like Texas can be interesting, to say the least. Even then, through all the political barriers and rhetoric, as a young Black and brown ocean advocate, I have persisted over the years, knowing that the power of my voice has been passed on generation after generation. And our very existence is our resistance in the faces of oppression. I know firsthand that as both a young person and a person of color, in order for us to all reach a point in which our lived experiences are at the table, we must continue to speak up, because remember this fight is not just about combating the climate crisis. It is about creating a more just, equitable, and sustainable future for us all. The climate crisis exacerbates existing social and economic disparities, disproportionately affecting marginalized communities. By fighting for climate justice rooted in equity, we all become champions for a fairer world, where no one is left behind. Today, I stand before you filled with an unshakable spirit, fueled by the immense power that lies within my very generation. The power to create policies and help with initiatives that will shape the future of the planet we all live on. As young leaders, we possess the audacity to change the status quo, the creativity to imagine innovative solutions, and the courage to demand meaningful changes. Youth have always been the catalyst for transformation throughout history, from passionate protests for civil rights to the relentless fight for gender equality. Young voices have echoed across generations, breaking down barriers and inspiring real change. Today, in the face of the climate crisis, our voices are needed more than ever. We possess a unique perspective, unburdened by the limitations of the past and a tenacity that refuses to accept that status quo. The urgency of the situation cannot be overstated. Our oceans, the lifeblood of our planet, are in peril. We know this all too well. Rising sea levels, warming waters, acidification in our oceans threaten those fragile ecosystems and coastal communities like mine around the world. But in the face of this crisis, we find hope. We recognize that the ocean, with its vastness and interconnectedness, holds the key to mitigating climate change and building a sustainable future. Regardless of what demographic you may lie within, our strength lies in our unity, our collective determination, and our unwavering belief in the power of our actions. We are part of a global movement. Invest in our youth, because a network of advocates and professionals committed to creating the future is the hope that we need in this very movement. As a reminder, the time for action is now. We have to continue to embark on this noble endeavor with courage, with determination, and the unwavering belief that all our voices and actions will shape a better world for generations to come. And that was my first remarks as I walk into our presentation. So, Youth Voices and Ocean Climate Initiatives from Earth Echo. A little bit about Earth Echo International. We're a nonprofit corporation. I started off as a Water Challenge Ambassador, which is one of our youth programs. And now I am on the board of directors. And in between that, I also have sat on the Youth Leadership Council. And every year, this Youth Leadership Council, it's a group about 25 amazing leaders from across the world, not just in the US. We nominate one of our council members to join our board of directors. And a few years ago, I was one of them. But it was founded by brother and sister siblings, Philippe and Alexandria, in honor of their father, Philippe Cousteau, to carry on the legacy of Jacques Cousteau. And we really strive to provide resources for young people. Of course, we do have our educators component as well, because we understand the power that young people have. And they're not just leaders of tomorrow, they're leaders in their communities today as well. And so we foster youth leadership, we mobilize communities, and we help teachers by educating and providing them the resources to help train their students. And I wanted to not only talk about the power that young people have, but also provide you with tangible results. What investing in young people in this movement and what it can do to the goals that we have set forth. Ocean Echo 30 by 30 was a campaign that we launched in connection with the 30 by 30 movement, protecting 30% of our world's oceans by the year 2030. And we knew that this needed a strong youth component to it, so our Youth Leadership Council was able to put together Ocean Echo 30 by 30, mobilizing youth leaders worldwide to protect 30 by 30. We do this through education. We provide educational toolkits to talk about what 30 by 30 means. We do this through policy and advocacy, speaking to our representatives, sitting out at the tables to plot out and see what the strategy looks like, to see this actually done. And we do this through restoration efforts as well, where we provide resources for those young people in their communities to work with their local organizations to actually lead restoration efforts of their coastlines. We took this a step further, actually, and we were able to develop a fellowship out of this. And this is something I'm really excited about. I love the work that we do about Earth Echo, so I might say I'm excited about a lot of things, so forgive me in advance. And this specific fellowship was about Ocean Echo 30 by 30. And you can look it up on our social medias. You can do hashtag Ocean Echo 30 by 30 to follow along with some of the work that we're doing in this space. We were able to take 10 young leaders from 8 different countries, an international effort leading campaigns to mobilize public and political support of the 30 by 30 movement. My good friends here pictured in these photos from Indonesia, we've got Brigida, and from Brazil, Bruna, and over in India, we've got Mehek. 2 outstanding young women in STEM, but 2 outstanding young leaders in their communities. I'd encourage you to check us out to follow along with their journeys as well. Something that we were able to roll out just this year. Let me preface this by saying this is for ages 13 to 25, because this is awesome, but it's not for everyone. We were able to launch Gen C. It's an online platform to connect thousands, hundreds of thousands of young people throughout the globe to partner together. There are coalitions, Facebook groups with adults, amazing professionals that have the space to collaborate together, but we saw that there was a gap in connecting young people. And so we stepped up and we came up with Gen C. And we launched it this year. We got over 1,000 young people in that space, over 100 different countries. I believe the number is about 1,500. I heard one of our advocates at one of our Hill meetings say yesterday, we elevate youth-led action. So if you know a young person or a bunch of young people, share this with them. They're able to join. I'd encourage you to check it out. joingenc.org/signup. I see a few pictures. All right, you got it, sweet. Now, this one is probably the most exciting for me as a young Black and brown advocate, because something that we are doing more of as an organization is investing in our youth of color. So we've got a resiliency externship. It's a hands-on paid professional experience with introductions to the field of regenerative aquaculture, and I am apologetic in advance because applications have closed, but we are currently in the process of reviewing those applications, and we've got some outstanding individuals, applications from the US and Canada and Mexico. You are more than welcome to stay in touch with us. I would encourage you even to invest in our youth by offering your resources as well. To the young people in the audience today, your value is in your lived experience. Your voice matters. You belong not only in this room, but at Capitol Hill. You belong in Congress. You belong in governments. You belong in your communities. Your experience is worth it, and you are valued. Thank you for your commitment as a young person to be in these rooms with adults. Thank you for the hard work that you do. It is not easy to have to grow up so fast in a world like that we live in today. But your determination, your spirit, is what's going to get us over the finish line. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you to all of our speakers for their climate leadership and for the unique insights that they provided to us. A few words stuck with me from each of them: connection, responsibility, accountability, innovation, disruption, hope and courage. I hope that you all leave this session thinking about how amazing, energetic, and thought-provoking these discussions are, and how they need to seed all of our discussions here on this stage, in this room, outside of this room. Please, please, please think very consciously about what you've heard here and carry that forward with you as our individual responsibility. We're going to reconvene here at 11 o'clock for our next panel, Decarbonization and the Role of our Ocean. Thank you all.